Hello, everyone. I can see people joining. So just bear with us a moment while we let people come on. Welcome. Welcome, everyone. We're just letting people join and we'll get started in just a moment. Just having a look through to see any names that I recognise on the list. What we sometimes do at the beginning of webinars, just to, while we wait for people to join and it gives us a flavour of where you are in the world, is in the chat, you can let us know where you're joining us from. And then we normally have a very British chat about the weather, because usually it's much nicer in other places than it is here. So feel free to let us know in the chat where in the world you're joining us from, or if you're somewhere local to us here, where you can sympathise with each other. Although it's been a very nice day actually here today. Blue skies. So Lois in Manchester, I hope it's nice for you up north, although it's always a little bit chillier. Greece, I'm sure that's much nicer than us. Toronto, I'm not sure what the weather's like in Toronto this time of year. I always think it must be cold. It's always cold whenever I go. Coventry, I'm sure you'll be very similar to us as well. Nice blue skies today. Had a lovely walk at lunch. Greece, Dubai, someone else in London, Slovakia, London, Oxford, Montreal. India, must be a late night for you. But lovely for joining us. Ismail's in Stepney. Yeah, well, you'll be feeling the same as us. Just down the road from my colleagues. I'm actually at home today, but the team are just down the road from you. Ghana, Pakistan. Don't be sad about Luton. Might be a bit cold, but it's fine. Croydon, lovely. Khadijah's in Hertfordshire. I'm in Hertfordshire as well, actually. So Essex, perfect. Lovely. Mauritius, that's probably beat all of us. Or Panama. Amazing. Welcome, everyone, wherever you are in the world. We'll get started. So welcome to today's webinar. My name's Charlotte Burton. I'm the marketing manager here at the School of Law at Queen Mary. And my role is to provide opportunities for you to meet staff. So I've got some colleagues here today, but also students, and have opportunities to ask questions and to help you in your decision-making process when you're thinking about applying for university. Obviously, if you're here today, you must be interested in law, which is great. And we've got a great session here today about everything that we offer, kind of aside from the standard programs that you've probably done a bit of research on our website, and thinking about the things that we offer that will help think about your future career and things that can enhance your career ready for when you come out of your law degree. So we've got an hour. We'll be running until 5 o'clock UK time. Please feel free to ask questions as we go along. We've got the Q&A function. I'm going to turn the chat function off just to keep it in the Q&A. So please feel free to use that to ask any questions you have. You can ask them as you go along. If there's anything that would be helpful for everyone to hear the answer to, I might save those questions to the Q&A time that we have at the end. However, if you've got questions very specific, I may answer that just as we go along, just so that we'll save time for everyone to hear broader answers at the end. Okay, that's my bit from me. I'm going to invite my colleagues to introduce themselves, and then we're all going to kind of take it in turns to do our little bit. So, Fran, over to you to introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Fran Rideout, and I'm the director of the Queen Mary Legal Advice Centre. I'm here with my colleague, also from the Queen Mary Legal Advice Centre, so we'll both be saying a few words on
that. Okay, Eve?
Hi, everyone. My name is Eve Haynes, and I am the Public Legal Education and Street Law Coordinator, which is a horrible mouthful, at the Queen Mary Legal Advice Centre, alongside Fran.
Lovely, thank you. And last but not least, Nigel.
Hi there. My name's Nigel, and I'm one of the professors in the law school, a professor of practice. So what does that mean? My background's in the legal sector, and I spent many years working in legal employers, law firms, and things like that, helping graduates come in. And so now I sit in the law school, face outwards towards employers, and help people get work experience opportunities and things like that. But lovely to be here.
Lovely. Lovely. Thanks, everyone. So as I said, please ask questions as we go along. No question's a silly question to ask. We're always happy to help. And this is an informal session, so we're always quite happy to just have a chat. So if anything comes to mind, please ask away. Okay, Fran, over to you.
So just to be really confusing, although I work in the Legal Advice Centre, I'm actually going to be talking to you today about the broader opportunities that we have in the law school to help develop your extracurricular professionalism, ways to get into the career market, etc. So I think the first point that I really want to make is that in our law school, we have far more going on than you're possibly going to have time to do alongside your studies. And actually, that's one of the really unique selling points about coming to Queen Mary University. You know, we are absolutely on the doorstep of the City of London. We're in London, we have great connections with employers, and we're all going to be talking about the connections with employers today. But what that means is that you won't just study, you'll have opportunities to develop yourself, to learn about the kind of professional and practitioner that you might want to go on to be, or the kind of professional perhaps you don't want to go on to qualify as a barrister or solicitor. But we really do want to develop you as a well-rounded individual, not just for you to achieve higher academic grades. So I'm going to go through a few different things that we've got going on in the law department that might interest you, that you might want to get involved in when you come to us. So first and foremost, let me talk to you a little bit about our student societies. Student societies are set up by law students and they're run by law students. So actually, us as academics have very little to do with them. And our students really have created some absolutely magnificent societies. I think there's about 13 or 14 of them. They include, you know, the Law Society, which is typically focused on people who want to go and become a solicitor. The Bar Society, for the barrister side of the profession. There's a Business Law Society, Criminal Justice Society, and Mooting Society. And I'll come on to what mooting is in a moment. We've got something called the Open Law Society for students that perhaps don't want to go down the commercial corporate route into that career, but want to do more social justice areas of law. And we have something called the Pro Bono Society as well. So Eve's going to be telling you about the Legal Advice Centre, which is very much run by staff at Queen Mary. The Pro Bono Society offers opportunities for law students to get involved in pro bono activities. There's some placements and things like that, but it's organised by the students. It's a slightly different setup. And with all of these societies, they are student run, and students will have different places in them, and you can apply to be elected as part of that society. But they're very much supported by the academics in the department. So typically each year, different people from the law department, different members of staff, will all come together to run a training session day for our student societies, where we help them pitch their societies in the best way so that they can make those connections within the profession. We talk to them about how to budget so that they can put together a proposal and ask the law school for money to run events and things like that throughout the year. So we do provide that support, and we encourage them, and we love our student societies to have as much autonomy and freedom as they can. And they do some really fantastic work that you might want to get involved in. Now, earlier I mentioned the Mooting Society. Mooting as a whole is very big here in our law school. So we have the Student Society, but we also have another prestigious competition that happens year in, year out. I'm not quite sure how many years it's been going on, but decades, called the George Hind Moot. And it's very prestigious. We have Supreme Court judges and ex-Supreme Court judges who usually come down to judge the final. And this is a mooting competition that can start with 190 odd people taking part, and it gets down to the last four. And we have a great big bash in the Octagon, which is a very fancy room here on campus, and the students will do mooting in front of an audience, and as I say, usually a Supreme Court judge, and then the winner's announced, and we all, you know, there's drinks and nibbles afterwards. So it's a really fantastic celebration of advocacy. And, you know, mooting is where people are effectively doing advocacy over a legal argument, a legal point of law. So it's a really important thing that will help your CV if you want to go into the profession. Now, the other advocacy piece that we do here in the law school is something called the plea and mitigation. So you might not know what plea mitigation is, and no one can no one can criticize you for that. In criminal law, just before a defendant is sentenced, there's an opportunity for a defence lawyer to make representations to the judge to say all of the mitigating features of the offending behaviour and try and persuade the judge to pass the lowest sentence that they're able to. And you look at guidelines. Judges don't just make up sentences, they have guidelines. And you're trying to argue that your client's behaviour falls within a certain place on the guidelines and that's where a judge should sentence. So it's a piece of advocacy that is much more based around facts and persuasion than perhaps mooting, which is a point of law. We have a wonderful plea mitigation competition, and the prize for the winner is a judicial marshalling with some judges that are very involved here in the law school as well. So that's always a really joyous event. And of course, we train the students both in mooting and how to do a plea mitigation before those competitions. So anyone can take part, even if you've had no experience or have not heard of either of those things beforehand. I want to quickly tell you about the careers support. So our careers team here are incredibly active. They will run a number of workshops each year and host events, panel events, and this is for all aspects of having a career in law. It includes barristers, solicitors, perhaps going on to be part of an in-house legal team. And the careers team will advertise those events to you and will encourage you to attend. But more than that, what they do here is provide you with one-to-one support. So if you want your CV to be looked over, if you want to do a mock interview, perhaps you've got a real interview coming up, or perhaps you don't, but you're just applying for things and you want to do a mock interview, you can book one of those individual slots with our careers lead, and they will help talk to you about how you can improve. So we're not just directing you to resources online, of which I should say there are plenty that we also provide, but it's that additional support on the back of that, where you can ask those specific questions to really help and hone you to get the career that you're looking for after your degree. Within our law school, we like to celebrate achievement because there is so much achievement that our students do each year and over the course of their 3 years. And so a few years back, we put together a package of prizes that relate to students' extracurricular activities within the law school. So these aren't prizes for modules, we have those as well, they're not for academic achievement, these are prizes for everything else that you do. And there's so much to look at and to potentially win. You know, prizes for advocacy, prizes around writing, you know, writing for the future, creative legal innovation. We've got a prize actually for the Legal Advice Centre, where we say outstanding contribution to the Legal Advice Centre over the last 3 years, and a prize for personal development as well, because we want to encourage you as law students to think holistically about your whole personal development, not just your academic development. I want to quickly tell you as well about a podcast that Nigel and I started. Nigel, we started this back in the pandemic, I think.
Back in COVID time, everyone. Back when we weren't allowed outside our houses.
Exactly. Nigel and I wanted to find a way to democratise access to the legal profession. How do you, as someone who perhaps don't have any connections in law, how do you find out that behind the scenes information? And we came up with a podcast that we called Reimagine Law, and you can find it on any of the podcast platforms. And I'm just going to share my screen and show you where it is on Spotify as well. And I'll put the link in once I finish talking. But we've got over 100 and possibly 20 actually episodes that cover different areas of law, different careers, different skills that you might like to develop to go into your careers, and are generally just designed to be quite helpful for you. So, for example, there's an episode here that you can see where, you know, we're always saying to law students, go and watch a case in the public gallery of a court. But how do you actually do that? What if you don't have the confidence to do that? How do you get the confidence? So we put together an episode, you know, about what to wear, what time to go, all of those things there. So I'd really encourage you to, let me stop sharing, to have a look at Reimagine Law, because you might find that to be a helpful resource. And we hear time and time again from law students that they've used that and listened and pick the episodes that they like the look of most, that are most helpful for their own career path.
And Fran, just on that, I think one thing
Yeah.
students, that just to say that Fran and I were really keen to do on that was some of the episodes, as you say, Fran, around well, all of them are very practical things, but some of them around, you know, Fran may have interviewed a judge and said, well, what's it like being a judge, or what's it like being a barrister, or what's it like being a solicitor, or, you know, and so we would talk to, so some of it's about different job roles to give you ideas of what you might like to do in the future, but some of it is very practical stuff in the long list of episodes that you'll see at the link there. That, you know, Fran had a thought of right at the beginning of saying, let's make it around when people apply for things. So you'll find lots of practical ideas about how do you do a good interview, or, you know, these days where lots of employers are doing these quite not very easy things, like, you know, you have to do those video interviews where you record it into a screen and everything. So, you know, we did episodes on things like that. So it's very, very varied. But as you say, Fran, it was, the idea really is to help you get an idea of, you know, how do you navigate your way? How do you find your way into a legal job if that's what you want? But yeah, but it's still going, Fran, as you say.
It's still going. And we have an Instagram page, actually, that one of our fabulous students helps us keep on top of. So you can follow it on Instagram, and then you get notifications whenever there's a new episode as well. So just before I hand over, I want to show you, let me share my screen again, just bear with me. On our website, hopefully you have seen this, we have an extracurricular brochure, okay? And I'll put the link in the chat. And this is a brochure that outlines all of the extracurricular opportunities that the law school has. So I'd really encourage you to click on the link that I'm about to put in, and have a nice read in your own time rather than listening to me rush through a list of things, and see if there's stuff there that you fancy, because I really do think that in our law school we have so much to offer that it can actually almost feel a little bit overwhelming about what we've got to offer. So have a quiet read, but you can see there we've got the careers support, information about the Legal Advice Centre, and student societies. So, right, with that in mind, I'll stop sharing screen and I will hand over to my colleague Eve.
Thank you, Fran. Yes, I'm worried about overwhelming you, but I'm going to press on anyway and tell you all about what we do at the Queen Mary Legal Advice Centre. So if you haven't heard about the Queen Mary Legal Advice Centre, it is the clinical legal education branch of the School of Law here at Queen Mary. So what is clinical legal education? It mixes the theory that you are learning in your traditional lectures and the core subjects that you'll be doing while you study your degree with practice. So you will be applying what you are learning to real life situations and real life cases and real life clients, etc. And it brings together you as a student cohort in group work. It brings together your classroom studies and reflection. It also brings together, really importantly, the local community. So we are helping the local community here in the East End of London, and the local legal profession, importantly for your networking and employment prospects for later on. As Fran mentioned, I will be talking a little bit about that later too. So, as I said, that's what we do here at the Queen Mary Legal Advice Centre. We have offices here at the Mile End campus within the School of Law, where we offer our free public legal advice services. And everything that I'm going to talk about today, it will be quite a lot of things that I'm going to rattle through, but we have a full website where we have pages on all of the projects that we run here. So we can link that to you in the chat, but I'll let Charlotte do that. Just a note to say that there is a page on the main School of Law website for the QMLAC, the Queen Mary Legal Advice Centre, but then we have our own separate website with a lot more information about each project. So do make sure to find both of those things if you are interested in learning more. So we have two main branches of work that we do here. So there's the individual client work, and then there is the public legal education projects. I'll talk briefly about both. I'll start with our individual client work first. So essentially, the main role there that people get involved with is that you as an undergraduate law student can become a student advisor. So what does that mean? It means that you will be assigned cases and real life clients. So someone will get in touch with us who requires legal advice. We will assign you a case and you will become that client's student advisor. You will have to interview that client, so about a 45-minute interview in person or over a remote setting if the client prefers it, to find out all the information about their legal matter, which you can then, after the appointment, go away, research and write them a legal advice letter, which they'll get a few weeks later, 2 weeks later, after their appointment. You are in charge of that case. You are that client's advisor. But you don't have to panic, because you are supported both by us here at the Legal Advice Centre and also by your supervising solicitor. So we work with a lot of solicitors from the legal profession, as I mentioned, and they will be, assigned to a case alongside you to support you in your advice giving. It's an amazing opportunity during your degree to actually have a go at practicing that solicitor work that you might want to go on to do after you graduate. And you can imagine the number of skills that you will develop doing such an activity. But one that really stands out to me that students often mention is that their writing skills really improve. As a law student, you'll be doing a lot of academic writing, coursework for your modules, that sort of thing. But this is a very different style of writing that you'll be doing with us, because you have to convey sometimes quite complex legal information to your client, who is not a lawyer, in a way that they can digest it, understand it, and then go on to help themselves and advocate for themselves with the advice you have provided them with. So that's a really important thing to be able to learn how to do for your future careers. And it's just one element that I thought I'd highlight here. There's 2 pathways to becoming a student advisor. You can either take part in the optional module, which is called the Practice of Law in a Clinical Legal Environment, which Fran runs, or you can volunteer directly with us to become a student advisor. So that's the main role that you can take on in that regard. I'll just highlight a few of the other services that we do on an individual advice basis. So we have a social welfare benefits form filling service, which is where, as a student advisor, you will support a client to fill in an application to receive a certain benefit that they're applying for. We also, in that field, offer help with submitting appeals. So if the client hasn't liked the outcome of their application, you can help them with an appeal. And that is also the only area of our service where you can work on a representation basis. So we do take some cases all the way to tribunal, and you can support that client at tribunal level. The other form filling service that we offer is support with clients who have faced domestic violence to get non-molestation orders and occupation orders through a service called CourtNav. So that, again, is a form filling service where you support a client to complete a form to get further support. The other role that we offer on this side of the clinic's work is to be on the support team. Now, there are a lot of legal advice clinics and centres in universities in the UK offering wonderful support to their local communities. But there's often not a great deal of opportunities to get involved. There's often a limit to how you can get involved. And this, I think, is a really important and special way that the Queen Mary Legal Advice Centre operates, is that you can get involved with the support team as soon as you begin your journey at Queen Mary, so from year 1. And the support team work allows you an insight into how a law firm might operate day to day. So you will work in the office with our team and see how the office operates and how our services with our local community work. So in your first year of study, you will be assigned tasks such as running the reception on an appointment evening. So that will involve greeting all of our clients, ensuring all the rooms are set up, supporting our student advisors, and really having an overarching view of how all of that works, in the moment. You'll also have office hours as a student, as a support team member in first year, where you will create case files for our appointments ahead of time and other tasks like that. And then in the subsequent years, so in your second and third year, you will obviously have had more experience working in the office, and you'll be given a bit more of responsibility in booking our clients in. So you'll triage inquiries, you'll call our potential clients on the phone and have long conversations with them about what it is that they need help with. So you'll have to identify legal issues on those calls, which is a difficult skill. And then if there is something there that you think that you can see that would fit with one of our clinics, you'll book a client in at that case and then write up case details for that client. So there's loads of skills that you're going to learn there that are really transferable, but also really applicable to how a law firm would work day to day, which would obviously help with a future law career. Okay, so that's our client work. There's the one-to-one client interactions that we have. The other side of our operation focuses on public legal education projects. So these are community-based projects that aim to increase public legal education and awareness of rights and responsibilities in lots of different ways, where we deliver not on a one-to-one basis, but to a community group or a group of people. So that's largely for us in schools and in prisons. I'm going to hopefully share my screen just to show you some pictures of our projects. So we've got a lot of projects. As I say, there's a lot of information about them on the website, but I will briefly touch on as many of them as I can. So we have the Spiked project starting at the left. So this is sharing and publishing of intimate images to embarrass. That's the name, that's the acronym. And that project sees our students design and deliver bespoke workshops to secondary school aged children. So that's children between the ages of 11 and 18 about the sharing and publishing of intimate images online to embarrass. So there's 3 of our students having just completed a session at the school. The next project that we have is I Am You. So this project focuses on the Equality Act 2010 and protected characteristics. And it's a series of 4 one-hour workshops that our students design and then deliver to 9 and 10-year-old pupils in primary schools. So you can see here, we've got 3 of our students who are currently running the project. Actually, they went to a school this morning to deliver session 3. And these are some of last year's students who have, with their class of year 5, written a community rules tree for their classroom. And here is a poem that one of the students wrote in the reflective class, the final session of the 4 sessions. And all of those lessons are about being able to identify and challenge stereotypes and discrimination, celebrate each individual pupil's identity and their uniqueness, and also the communities that they belong to. So it's a really lovely project, and the students really enjoy making those lessons. The third one on the slide there is the Prisoner Property Project. So this project sees our students design and deliver workshops at prisons around prisoner property. So the prisoner may have lost or is unsure where certain items of theirs have gone since being at the police station, or maybe during a transfer, they might have lost some of their belongings. So this project sees that the students inform the prisoners of their rights in relation to their property. And also, while they're there, they offer one-to-one appointments as well, with subsequent follow-up legal advice letters if they have a specific issue with a piece of personal property. So that's those 3. Then we have another primary school aged project. So this is school tasking. So here again, we run a series of 4 workshops with year 5 pupils. So they are 9 and 10 years old. And these lessons focus on introducing legal concepts to a very young age group, really. And it just hopes to show them what the law is and introduce some legal responsibility and interpretation ideas to the students in those classes through a series of very fun and very interactive activities. So we ask them to draw the law, for instance, is what this poster is. And in this activity, they have to reproduce one of the UNCRC's articles on the rights of the child in Play-Doh. So you can see that it is age appropriate, but it's really fun. And it's really interesting to see them grasp these quite difficult legal concepts through these fun activities. And our students really enjoyed delivering those lessons as well. And our final public legal education tool that we have is our legal blog, which again, we can link to you in the chat. This is on our website. And here our students author blogs on topical subjects that they are interested in about a certain law or something that's happened recently, or that is aligned with one of our clinics. So it might be that that blog could be a source of support for somebody who needs legal advice on, say, wills and probate. If there was a blog that was written that might answer that question for somebody, that is therefore a form of public legal education as well. I'll stop sharing. So what underpins all of this work are the fact that we want to support our local community. So it's a really important value for us here at the Legal Advice Centre. We want to give back to the local community and provide place-based education. And we're very proud of the fact that we were able to do that. I've talked a little bit about the skills that our students are able to gain by working with us here. There's a unique opportunity to develop a lot of emotional intelligence and empathy through working with our clients and working with our community groups, but also soft skills that are so transferable to any career that they'll go on to do. We just really are able to foster those through the work here. There's obviously excellent networking opportunities and employability opportunities through the work that you do here. And you're supporting pro bono. We want to help to develop ethical graduates in law. So when you graduate, we hope that you will, having done pro bono work as your undergraduate level, seek to continue to do that once you've got a nice job at a good firm. And also there's a really important point about the co-ownership of our education. So we're creating proactive students here who design their own workshops and work with their own clients on their own. And that's, it's so nice to see the confidence that that brings. And there's also an important point, which I think might be really applicable to you guys if you're looking to apply. There's no prerequisite requirement to working at the Legal Advice Centre. You don't have to show us that you have had a vacation scheme or had 2 weeks work experience at a firm to come and do work with us. It's not necessary. So that creates a really nice diversity of students from different backgrounds and at different stages in their lives, who all come together to make a really nice environment in our centre. And I will just finish with a few statistics from our centre. So we've helped over 5,000 clients on a one-to-one legal advice basis since starting in 2006. We've delivered workshops to over 10,000 school pupils. We engage around 450 students every year at the Legal Advice Centre. We have over 200 volunteer solicitors and barristers who support our work every year. We've got 11 members of staff at the moment, and we're going to have a 12th starting with us in January, a solicitor. And as I said, we offer all of this work as a mixture of credit bearing or extracurricular activities, so you can get involved with us how it fits you during your degree. And finally, and we're quite proud of this, we have won over £1 million in disability benefits at the Social Security Tribunal. So that's our students representing clients at Tribunal since 2018, which is a nice end. I will stop talking now. Thank you very much. And any questions, please do pop them in the Q&A.
Lovely. Thanks, Eve and Fran. Nigel, over to you.
Oh, that's what an amazing, amazing sort of sketch you've just and picture you've painted, really, Eve and Fran. And I suppose just one thing for all of you watching and logging in today, I suppose I would just say, I wonder all the things we've just talked about, whether they were the types of things you would be expecting a law school to talk about that's a really top law school, or whether you might think, oh, that's quite unusual. I didn't realize that there were all these other things I could do. And I say that because for many years, so my background, I may have said at the beginning, was briefly, so I worked in law firms. So I worked in employers for many, many years, for about 15, 20 years. And so I used to see the graduates coming in year on year to become the junior solicitors in the firm I was in. And one of the things I always thought, and this touches so much even what you were just saying, and Fran as well, I used to think so much, do you know what would really help them in that transition between the world of education they're just coming out of and the world of work they're going into? Would be if we'd have almost given them a little bit more of all the stuff you've just spoken about, really, to almost build some of those practical skills. And Eve, you mentioned the word confidence, I think, as well. And so that was one of the things that really struck me. And so basically what I sorry, there's a phone going off in the background here. I apologize for that. So basically, one of the things that I was very keen to do when I was looking around, I was in my law firm, I literally went around to different universities and I said, would you be up for actually doing even more practical stuff than you do already? And so that was, and little did I know that and then I walked in the door at Queen Mary and Fran and the Legal Advice Centre, they were already up and running and they were already doing stuff. But that wasn't usual. And I make that point to say, not that, it doesn't mean that, you know, I don't want to think of all like Queen Mary's better or Queen Mary's, you know, than all the others. The point I'm making is that all law schools will be different. And so when you choose the type of educational experience you want when you leave school, the thing I would say is really challenge where you're going to if you go for open days or things like that, and ask them this question and say, okay, I know that as we do at Queen Mary, I know you'll have amazing professors who do amazing research about, you know, lots of really, whether it's human rights law as we do here, you know, IP law, corporate law, pick a topic of law that, you know, and we've got over 130 members of staff, I think, Charlotte, you've told me. So you have all this amazing knowledge from the professors, the lectures and the tutorials, but really think about and push wherever you're thinking of going to say, yeah, but what do you do for me on building some of my skills and my confidence and giving me that practical opportunity as well? Because I want to go somewhere where it doesn't just care about what I do then, but also almost cares for helping to build what I might do afterwards as well. And I think that's a really good thing for all of you to keep in mind when you're thinking of choosing, you know, even which country do I go to study? We've got an amazing list of where you said you were dialing in from at the beginning. You know, wherever you choose to go to study, if you come to London, a lovely international place, to one of the questions that I think was asked, and a very diverse student body here, which I'm sure Charlotte can give us the stats for. But you know, think of the experience you want, but think of the experience you want of the education experience as well. Because, I mean, some of the things that Eve has described there are just such incredible opportunities. So one of the things I did, sorry, I'll finish the story. One of the things I did when I was in my law firm and I came to visit Queen Mary, was I said, would you be up for creating an option in your law degree for basically creating some work experience embedded in the law degree? And this was slightly different from what Eve and Fran have suggested, but basically what I was allowed to create with Christina Perry, professor in contract law at Queen Mary, and we've now been running this for 10 years, and I'll just share a screen here as well, is we created an opportunity for students to basically do a year of paid work experience as part of their law degree. So you can come and study at Queen Mary, and then you can study for your first 2 years. And you can be doing, by the way, you can be doing straight law and business, law and politics, whatever you're interested in doing. But then you get the chance to apply for all these job opportunities to actually go and spend a year working at some of, we just put the logos up here of some of the partners we've worked with since 2014 as well. But you have this amazing chance to go and get paid work experience to actually, as you said, Eve, you know, build your confidence and find out about, okay, that career path, you know, Bros Bennett, for example, family law expert. So we have students every year for the last few years go to work in Bros Bennett. And so they think, well, I think I'm interested in family law, but what does that look and feel like as a day-to-day thing if you actually go and do that for my job and my career? And so it's a lovely way of almost getting 8 or 12 months experience to actually think almost like a two-way interview in a way, because many of them lead to jobs also for people when they leave university. Oh, by the way, there's some lovely videos on the webpage as well. We have a relationship with the in-house legal team at Chanel as well, the big fashion business as well. So that's just one opportunity. And I just say that, as I say, think about the type of it, and I'll put the, by the way, I will send the link in the chat so you've got the website, which is there. But think about the type of experience you want, because I think Queen Mary always struck me as somewhere that, as I say, cared about the knowledge and the absolutely research-led expertise of the faculty and giving that to you in your 3 years or 4 years of being with us. But also they cared about almost the stuff, as I say, Fran and Eve have talked about as well, and the amazing stuff they do, whether all the access to justice work you do. And so my little bolt-on bits to all of that practical activity of things like the law in practice degree, where you can go and get that page of work experience. Or with Mohammed in my team here, who works with me, sitting next to me, we often set up little summer internships as well. So there's a lovely relationship we have with a law firm down in Kuwait, for example, where we have someone who did law at Queen Mary, went back and ran their own law firm down in Kuwait, ICB, they're called, International Council Bureau. And they got in touch and said, oh, by the way, we'd love to create an opportunity for some Queen Mary students to go and get some summer experience down there. Another time, one of Fran's links is actually out to a law firm, Field Fisher, as well, where one of their clients got in touch, a big architecture business, and said, oh, can we actually give some experience to Queen Mary students? So there's all this stuff going on. And Fran, you made the point right at the beginning of how much you can fit in and everything. So obviously there is that challenge of, you need to fit in this all in around your studies. But I hope what we've done, Charlotte, I guess, as well, is I hope we've painted for all of you a quite rich picture of some of that broader, more three-dimensional education, if I was to phrase it like that you can get. And and going back to things like ethics, it was interesting, Eve, you raised the point of ethics. So Fran and I have just been running an employer workshop all day where we have some of the big employers from the city in here at Queen Mary upstairs. And we were just having a discussion with them about what do you really value when people come through. And interestingly, actually, ethics, Eve, came up as one of the things they really highlighted and said, please give them lots of education and really creative education about how they deal with ethics and ethical problems as well as part of their law education. So, so I say we do all these things in various ways, but it's just to show you also that we're regularly talking to employers. So hopefully we're giving you a nice opportunity that then when you do come to leave Queen Mary, and you're looking at your next steps afterwards, you can actually say to that, you can tell some great stories. And you say, well, I worked with Eve for about 4 or 5 months. I was giving advice to the clients that were coming in the Legal Advice Centre and going out to schools or going to prisons. And it was really interesting because it was really challenging. I had to get outside my comfort zone and all of those things that you need to be able to tell stories about when you're looking for jobs. And I think lots of the things that Eve and Fran have talked about as well, and hopefully the law in practice as well, that your year of experience, it just gives you so much more confidence and the chance to actually see different career possibilities. And as you say, Fran, that's why we started the podcast way back, because we were very conscious that all of you are thinking, well, what is the legal sector? I keep hearing it's changing. I keep hearing these exams are getting tricky to not just at degree level, but then that SQE exam I now need to do to qualify as a solicitor in the UK. Or what's it like being a judge, or what's it like being a barrister or a barrister's clerk? Or where's the legal sector going in the future? Or how do I do a good interview? So we wanted to, what we try and do at Queen Mary, I think, is create lots of resources for you to try and give you some insights there as to, how can I build my career and actually take my next steps with some confidence and with some good stories to tell, I think, in the sense of the experiences I've had. And just to say as well on student societies, and, again, Fran, you mentioned that, and I would just say they're wonderful leadership opportunities for you. Never forget what a lovely leadership, because as Fran said, they're completely student-led. So you get the chance to be in charge, to run events, to go and talk to employers and say, oh, will you come and speak at our event in a few weeks' time, please? So they're lovely leadership opportunities as well for you. So so think about all those and perhaps take some of those opportunities. But I'm conscious of time, Charlotte. And teamwork. Yeah, it is teamwork. Yeah, and absolutely, build your team skills. Because another thing, that's a really interesting thing, when we did a workshop last year actually about employer skills, and we said to them, what skills do you really want people to build as they come out? They talked about ethics. They also talked about teamwork, and they said, do you know why that's getting even more important? Is because, and Adam Curfey, one of the practitioners who came to that workshop for us, has written a book on that, about the importance of team skills. Because as the world gets more complicated, and the customers or clients of law firms have more complex problems, of course, you can't solve that with one person. You need actually a team of people to actually solve it. And so law firms now and legal employers are hiring many different types of experts now. They might be AI experts, they might be data protection experts, they may be cybersecurity experts, they may be IP experts or M&A experts in law, but they're very, very different, almost different types of professionals. And so the collaboration point and that skill set of almost working across disciplines is really something. So I would encourage you, when you're thinking about personal statements as well and applying to universities, think about what experiences you're getting to build your team experience and how you work across people from different backgrounds, different experiences, and different skill sets as well. That's a great thing to talk about in how you present yourself to us, really, and to all the universities you're thinking of going to. But great point, Fran. Yeah, collaboration. Charlotte, I'll stop there.
No, thank you, everyone. That was really helpful. We've got a few questions in the chat. I'm going to do them in a certain order, which kind of makes sense based on what we were just talking about. So, Nigel, this is one you can answer very easily. So someone's asking about how you apply for law in practice. Obviously, it's not something that you can apply to via UCAS. Can you explain the application process for that?
No, that's a great question, Leah. Thank you very much for asking it. And the way that works is, you're right, it's not something it's not something you apply to do before you or at the moment you join. So what you do is you can sign up to your law degree or your law and business degree or law and politics degree, whatever degree you're doing at the law school. But then what we do is, and I'll explain why we do it like this, you do your first year modules, then you do your second year modules, and then during your second year modules, Mohammed and I actually will then start advertising to all of you second years and say, by the way, Simmons and Simmons or Bros Bennett have now, are now advertising for the opportunities for next year's placement students. Here's the link. And then you apply directly to the employer. So we stand back at that point. We introduce you to the employer via a session like this, and they talk about the firm, and then you apply directly because they select you. We will always want the employer to make that choice. The reason we do it like that is because you'll understand, of course, that the employers can never really think 3 years in advance and say, oh, I know in 3 years' time, I know Leah's just coming up to start at Queen Mary now, but, I know I've got a job potentially in 3 years' time. So they only ever can plan 6 or 9 months in advance. So that's why we advertise the opportunities, Leah, in the second year, because sometimes there are, like this year, Mohammed and I have found a few new ones, actually. We've got the government legal department now, which is a fantastically interesting place. It's like an enormous law firm. There's like 2,500 lawyers at the government legal department. Or there's the International Chamber of Shipping. So any of you interested in shipping law or the maritime industry, again, that's a new one that came on tap literally last few months, that we've now got students just sitting in now doing their first year of the first placement years there. So that's the reason we do it like that, Leah and Charlotte. Charlotte knows, but Leah, that's the reason we do it like that, because we don't want to limit the opportunities. So we have to just wait until we see which new employers we've found, which old ones are still doing the offer as well. And we do that in the second year. So come and do your law degree, and then in the second year, you can apply for those placements. But I hope that helped.
Yeah, perfect, Nigel. And just linking to that, obviously we're always finding new, and you're having conversations all the time with new employers to provide new opportunities. Obviously there are a limited number of places, aren't there?
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah, that's right. And then just on that. So you're right. I mean, what we tend to find is that there's a pool of students who end up being interested in it for various reasons, because some students, obviously, if you do that, of course, your 3-year degree becomes a 4-year degree. And so some students want to just still keep their degree at 3 years for various reasons, and that's absolutely fine, of course. So that's why we end up having a pool of 28, 30, 35 students who might regularly apply for those. This year, we've created 16 placements there. So you're right, it is competitive to get. But one way of looking at it for all of you, and you might think, oh, so I'm not guaranteed. No, you're not guaranteed. But what I would say is, most of those opportunities are just for QM students, because they're from the relationships we've built out from the law school. So you might be applying against 28 or 30 of your fellow QM students. If you go out and apply for a vacation scheme, or you go out and apply for another internship outside, you'll be applying against 400, 500, 2,000 people. So you can't guarantee it. No, that's true. But we also do have those other opportunities, like the shorter summer ones I mentioned as well. So there are various types, Charlotte, but yes, it's competitive, but the odds are much better, I would say, of getting one of those. And of course, I mean, Fran, you take in hundreds of students each year for your amazing work opportunities as well. So yeah, you can think of it in different ways. But Fran, what's the numbers? You work with literally hundreds of students.
About 550 that we have from
Wow.
the Legal Advice Centre every year. And I've got to say, I've been here for 10 years and I've never had a student come up to me at the end of their 3 years and say, you know what, Fran, I did a good application all 3 years and I didn't get a spot. We really genuinely believe that the Legal Advice Centre, and I think you've mentioned this, is a diversity tool. You don't need to come have legal experience to come to Queen Mary. Come to us. We will provide you with more opportunities than you've got time to take part in. That can get you that wonderful legal experience that you can then use to try and get places at law and practice degree or going on to do employment.
And I think that's a really important message, Fran, actually, where a lot of students, probably in the situation of a lot of you watching today, worry that, oh, do I need to have some sort of work experience to be able to get a place at Queen Mary? Like, absolutely not. We understand that everyone has different opportunities, and someone might have a parent that works in a law firm, so they easily have an opportunity, whereas we know other people won't have that. That absolutely is not the case for us.
And can I say, I think nothing shows initiative like going on your own or with a friend to the local courthouse and sitting in the public gallery for a day and watching a court hearing and then writing about that on your UCAS form or listening to some the podcast episodes. Like, this is initiative, almost more so than somebody who asks their parent for a space at a law firm. That's what we want to see: hungry, dedicated people that are passionate about doing law, not people that have just used opportunities that are presented to them.
Yeah, totally. And I think that kind of links in quite nicely to the diversity question that we've got about how diverse is Queen Mary. And as a university as a whole, diversity is one of the key values of the university, and I think it's really evident when you're here. If you are local or if you're international and you're coming to London, please do come and visit us, because you will feel that diversity. And the law school particularly is a particularly diverse place as well. From asking where everyone was from, we saw someone just down the road in Stepney, people from all across the UK, but also internationally as well. So we have over 80 different countries that students come from each year. So nationalities are very diverse, which creates a really nice environment in the classroom for students, but locally as well. So it's very diverse, and you won't feel at all left out in any way. It's a lovely place to be, a very inclusive environment. Okay, we've got a few minutes, so let's crack on with these last few questions. Leading on to that, average size of classes in the undergraduate cohort is around 12 to 15 students. I think they said 12 max. Frank can correct me, or someone correct me if I'm wrong.
There's three different types of teaching. There's lectures that are obviously big lectures, tutorials that, you're right, Charlotte, that's where we're looking at 12 to 15. And then you can also get some of your optional modules in seminars. They tend to be limited at about 30 students. So that would typically be like a 2-hour session. My ones are particularly interactive. Other people might do more of a sort of lecture style with questions and things like that. So seminars have that diverse range of teaching. Tutorials are all discussion, where you come with your preparation, and lectures are all listening. That's probably the easy way to summarize it.
Yeah, perfect. And the question which Nigel has answered typed, but I think it's helpful for everyone to hear as well. In terms of preference for your career in what LLB to take, I think it's worth highlighting that every undergraduate law program that we offer is an LLB law degree. So whether you decide to do just law or law with business or law and politics, you're still getting that LLB. So if you have interest in business or politics, there's no harm in doing that. And it doesn't reflect badly at all on you. It just shows that, perhaps you've got other interests as well, which makes you interesting as a person. So please don't worry about that. If you have interests in business or politics and you would like to do that, then absolutely do go ahead. The LLB law is the most popular program, but it's still just as valuable to get one of the other programs as well. You're still getting that LLB, which is the important thing. Okay. In terms of how many graduates go on to work for Magic Circle law firms, this question comes up a lot, and I should try and get some data on it, but I don't actually have evidence data on it.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to get the data, because don't forget, people often do something after university and then go on to work at at Magic Circle law firms. So, for example, I know this is relating to the bar, not to Magic Circle law firms, but this year I've had reference requests for 4 of our students from about three years ago, I think one from 5 years ago, to go to do a pupillage reference, which is amazing. We're just delighted. So sometimes students go on to do something else and then will join a big city law firm, or especially a chambers, because the age of pupils tends to be a little bit older. Nigel, do you get a sense of how many are at Magic?
Well, I get a sense that, no, I know if you do, because I see it on LinkedIn sometimes when, you know, I see people leave who've gone on to work. I don't know the number. The other thing I would say about that as well, Laszlo, as well, is the legal market is changing really rapidly. You know, lots of my research is on career paths and actually how firms are changing too. And it's really interesting, this whole definition of Magic Circle and what it means now. You probably know that, for example, in the UK market, the US firms have piled in the last 10 years or so. And so there's a real reordering of the market. And so I know Magic Circle firms are seen as, you know, and they are very, 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 very good, high end of the market, very good experience. It's interesting actually that some people are questioning, actually, including people in those firms, saying, well, should we really define ourselves with Magic Circle? What does it mean anymore to be Magic Circle? It's a really interesting, and I don't mean that means they're going downhill. All I mean is almost the market is reordering itself a little bit in an interesting way. So yes, some of our students absolutely go on to work there. Many of them go on to work at US firms, which are, you know, certainly in terms of salary, if you're interested in going on and earning high salary, I mean, they're pushing the market upwards in terms of salary, and the Magic Circle are thinking, okay, how do we compete with that? And, you know, do we match those salaries? What do we do? So, you know, it's so that was a very long answer to the question, but I just think it's interesting that the market is changing a lot. So look broadly, I would say, look at Magic Circle, absolutely, and some of our students absolutely go on and get jobs there. But also look at, you say you might want to look at US firms, you might want to look at some of these, you know, we have a placement arrangement with D2LT. D2LT is Datu, that's the chap's name, Datu, D2 Legal Technology. He used to be a senior lawyer at Allen & Overy, he's owned a Magic Circle firm. He left to set up his own boutique firm, now down in Canary Wharf, advising banks on things like data and how they use technology to deliver their client service. Fascinating. And so we've got Sylvia down there, one of our students down there this year, on the placement down there as well. Now, that's probably a career path no one would have thought about 5-10 years ago. And you'll get a certain type of experience in a big Magic Circle firm. You'll be one of, say, 50, 60 trainees. Or you could go to a more niche place and get an absolutely fascinating experience as well. So I suppose all I'm saying is I'm encouraging you to think broadly about career paths, because the market, certainly in the UK market, is broadening a lot. There are many different types of employer now, and you know, which is great for all of you coming through in the next generation, because there are so many different types of jobs now in the legal sector. Partly, you know, why we did the podcast, because we thought, how can we help people understand what all the options are now, really? So sorry, Charlotte, that was a very long answer. We've got a minute left. Sorry.
No, don't worry. So just lastly, last bits, we're going to close up there because we've got a hard 5 o'clock finish. Just to quickly follow on from Nigel's point, that actually one of our students has just started in first year, and I see a lot of their posts online. These Magic Circle firms, if you want to, there's so many activities available for students to get involved with. And I've seen Eversheds, Clifford Chance, Allen Overy, Slaughter and May, all these activities that students have being able to go to because they're
this
there.
is Nikita, isn't it? I've seen him.
Yes.
He's going everywhere. It's really interesting.
Everywhere. I don't know how he has time to do it all, but he's doing a great job. So you will have access to this stuff when you're there. So if that's what you're looking for, there's options as well. Okay, very lastly, on my last minute of talking, thank you everyone for joining. I have popped in the chat a registration link for anyone that's local and available on Saturday. We are doing an undergraduate taster day where all of us will be.
Absolutely, we'll all be there.
So, you're very welcome to join us. I've put the registration link in the chat if you would like to come along. It's an interactive day opportunity for you to get a taste of what it's like to come and study with us at the School of Law. And just say, Fran, Eve, Nigel, thank you so much for your time today. It's really appreciated. This session has been recorded, so if you do want to catch up, you can access this online. I will be sharing it afterwards. But thank you everyone for joining, wherever you are in the world. Have a good rest of your day, evening, and we hope to see you next September.
Lovely
Thanks
to meet you.
everyone.
Take care, everyone.
you.
Good luck with your studies as well.
Thank
Yes,
you.
good luck.
Bye. Bye.